Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Maitri Plays Games, and I am Maitri. And I'm very excited to be doing, oh man, my very first one of actually having an amazing creator on here that I'm super psyched to share with you. Today, I'm here with Alan Tucker, founder of Indie Co-op, and we're going to be talking to you a little bit about their latest offering, which really resonates with me personally because I love end of world apocalypse stuff, like on a personal level. Like my home games are constantly on the verge of falling apart, and I am just so excited to have your system agnostic book coming out that I'm going to be able to use for inspiration to make that even better. But what I'd love to do, Alan, if you don't mind, maybe we can start with a quick introduction of who you are and what Indie Co-op does.
Yeah, you bet. I'm Alan Tucker, and I've been uh, writing fantasy and science fiction since about 2009, and then kind of got back into role-playing games in, I think 2017 about. Kind of became an empty nester and thought, well, let's get back into this thing I did when I was in high school and college. Kind of skipped a few years there with some life and other things got in the way, but and just because of my writing background and everything else, not too long after I got into playing again, I decided to start creating and writing for that, mostly D&D at the time, but branching out now into some other games. So um,
Amazing.
recently, this past year or so, I saw a need and had the time and availability to create a space for BIPOC and other marginalized group creators to get together and hopefully try to be mentored. We have a staff of mentors from all walks of life in the group, and just a place to gather and be able to create together. And we started out early this year with a book of magic items called Incredible Items, and now we are working on this new project where we're going to end everyone's world.
That's very exciting. I'm gonna put all the relevant links in the description box for you to check out. For anyone who would want to that, and I urge you to. What I would love to talk about, though, Alan, is I want to talk about Incredible Airs, but more than that, I want to talk about what you have coming up. Can you tell me a little bit about Apocalypse?
Yeah, so Apocalypse, the complete game master's guide to ending the world, is going to start on Kickstarter here on October 4th. And what we're doing with that is we have just a host of people that are contributing to this with either articles of advice for running a campaign dealing with an apocalypse or world-ending event, saving the world, all of that kind of stuff, or even after such an event. And then as well as we're going to have a large number of game scenarios which will cover, they'll be broken up into genres: fantasy, contemporary, sci-fi, and also apocalyptic levels, which would be local, global, or universal. And some of them will bleed back and forth into those different categories, but that's generally kind of how we're breaking that up. And so you'll be able to use those either as one shots if you want, or even as just basis for a whole campaign in whatever TTRPG you want to play. The book itself, like you mentioned before, is going to be system agnostic. It's not going to be just 5e or just Starfinder or just anything. It'll be, the game scenarios will have a location and history section for when and where this thing is happening, and also dramatis personae, which will be just a group of NPCs basically, or the people that are integral to making this scenario happen. They'll have descriptions, how they talk, what mannerisms, things like that, so that you'll be able to role play them easily, and then any other just general information that is needed to be able to make this scenario work in your game. And then at that point, all you need to do is drop in creatures if your game happens to have them, or any specifics that you would need for your game to play it, and you're off and running.
Thank you for that. One of the things that I was so drawn to with this is that, mm, for anyone that knows anything about the way I run games, it's really just to kind of like find things I'm inspired by and just like reskin it and reflavor it to kind of
Mhm.
fit into whatever game I'm running. So
Right.
I love that Apocalypse is basically a unique take on what is essentially a setting book. And so rather than it being the setting of the apocalypse, you're doing the theme of apocalypse across these different genres and across these different settings. And like, it's so cool, man. Like, it's just so cool.
Thank you. We're
I,
pretty
I'm
excited about it.
I can imagine it looks dope. What I actually I want to go back to something that you mentioned, which was the different levels of apocalypse, local, regional, global. And I'll be honest, like for me, and this might just come from like years of pop culture, but apocalypse has always been a global thing. It's
Mhm.
always been something that happens to the whole world, and now everybody just has to deal with the world ending.
Mhm.
And but one of I was lucky enough to have a chance to take a look at some of your primer stuff, like some of the stuff you guys have been working on in this. And one of the articles that really stood out to me, and this ties back to your platforming of BIPOC as well, was something written by Bashir Ghost, who I'm sure I'm saying the last name wrong, and I'm sorry, Bashir. I'm
I don't
Indian,
know
I
how to say it
swear.
either. So
I don't know if it's Gauss or Ghost, but either way, Bashir, I'm sorry. I am Indian and I should know, but I'm sorry. Either way, the incredible thing was that he wrote about a local apocalypse, a regional apocalypse. And the
Mhm.
example he had given was, oh man, I wish I could remember the specifics, but basically it was like the fall of ancient Rome or something similar, while every place around it continued to grow and thrive. And I had never considered that as like apocalyptic, but it definitely is. Can you talk to that at all? Because that was really stuck out to me as something hugely unique.
Right. Well, and if you think of, and this might be the example he used, but Pompeii, the volcano that destroyed that area, um, for those people in that region, that was apocalypse. That was
Yeah,
the end of their. That was
yeah.
the end of their world. And for again for that region of the world. And yes, it didn't affect the entire world, but again, for that sort of event, um, you've got a volcano erupting, or maybe a meteor impact, or things like that. It may not affect the entire world or the entire universe or anything else like that, but it certainly is going to affect this locale in a devastating way. That's again the kind of thing that we did want to hit upon, is that an apocalyptic event doesn't have to be all ending for everyone everywhere. It can be a local event which may grow into a larger area that it affects. Again, like with a meteor strike, Obviously, the immediate area is going to be immediately impacted, but if it's big enough, it can eventually impact the entire world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I also really like the dramatis personae section, like having just who are your important people in the adventure, like because that kind of stuff again, like really, I love taking like the reason my home game feels unique is because I run D&D 5e, but I don't use 5e adventures. I use Savage Worlds adventures. I use Fate adventures. I use all these other things and I like reskin them. So I love that you guys have these concepts that can effectively be 'cause every world is gonna have a rich bureaucrat. You know, every world is going to have like a body bar owner. You know what I mean? Like all of those things, like those concepts for NPCs will exist regardless of setting. And I love that you captured that in that section. Can you was that sort of the intent behind that was to make it so user friendly and usable across different
Yeah,
settings?
exactly. Just again, because we want to cater to anybody playing any TTRPG, whether you're playing Cthulhu or Vampires the Masquerade or Starfinder or anything like that, D&D. You have a just a set of characters, and they could be any ancestry, species, whatever that you want that fits for your game. But what we try to concentrate on is just giving them a personality. Each of them will have, again, some sort of quirk or mannerism or something like that that you can just pick up on immediately and say, okay, this is how I'm going to present them to my group.
That
And
is awesome to me, Alan. And apart from the reason I just said, further to that, it really kind of addresses something that I think we've all been talking about in tabletop spaces recently, which is the idea of playable races and like the concept of bioessentialism. You know what
mhm,
I mean? So I
yeah,
love that there are these personalities that are not tied to like fairly arbitrary like race and ancestry and like whatever you want to call it. But
yeah,
I love that you guys are just using like this is who this individual is like as a person, this is what their motivations are, this is what their goals are as an individual,
right.
and that was just so great to me.
I appreciate that. Again, that's kind of where we wanted to head with this, is that, and those are, the ancestry, the species, the gender, the anything is not, it generally is not essential to your storytelling.
Agreed.
It's the personality and it's the motivations and goals, of this person, creature, whatever it happens to be, that are important to your story. And so again, that's just what we wanted to focus on for this. So
That's awesome. Really just it's gonna be a short video because I really just wanted to have you on here to talk about this amazing offering coming up. Given that you know this is the labor love of a lot of people, like do you have anything you would want to share about apocalypse or anything you want to like let folks know about it that is particularly near and dear to your heart?
well, we're we're kind of trying a different approach with this. We had a successful Kickstarter for our first project, the Incredible Items, but we'd really want to see what we can do to increase our reach. And so, in order to do that, what I did initially was reach out to a whole slew of creators that are a little more widely known in the industry. Um, we have Mike Shea, we have Amy Vorpal, we have Bashir that we've already talked about, Connie Chang, we've got Katie Osoris is doing an article on accessibility and things like that for this, and We just have again a great number of people that should be are going to be pretty well known in the industry, besides all of the other writers and creators that were kind of behind our first project, and we'll be bringing on many more, I'm sure, to finish out these things, because a lot of this hasn't been written yet, especially like the scenarios. We have quite a few articles of advice that are in, but we still have scenarios that are going to be coming, and some of that will be stretch goals, things like that. We have, let's see, gosh, Erin Roberts, who worked on Radiant Citadel. She's going to be writing a scenario. James Case works.
Literally, my copy of Radiant Citadel is like right here. Like it's within arm's reach.
Yeah. James Case works for Paizo, done a lot of stuff for Paizo. He's going to be doing a scenario as one of our stretch goals. Bashir, who wrote that article, he's also going to be doing a scenario. Chris Bissett is signed on to do a scenario. Connie Chang is going to be doing a scenario. And again, those are just all going to kind of hopefully be big, stretch goals for us as we move along. These, I mean, we're just so excited to have all these people on board and to join us in creating some fun stuff. I think people's idea of what an apocalypse is, I think, will be greatly stretched.
I love that. I
From some
love
of
that.
these, I know some of the ideas that I've seen that have been pitched so far are really really good and very imaginative. As far as it's not just going to be the four horsemen out there. We've got all kinds of stuff coming. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. I will put again relevant links and dates and everything in the description box for people to check out. But otherwise, Han, thank you so much for being here. Short
thank
and
you.
sweet.
And if anybody is interested in joining the Indie Games Co-op, you can find that Twitter is at Indie Games _COOP co-op on Twitter, or I am at Tucker Author on Twitter. And just ask us for an invite to the Discord, and we'd be happy to have you. We want, again, to grow this and help as many people as we can.
Thank you so much, Alan. And thank you everybody for watching.